So many people are asking, why did you leave your group practice? Um, and that answer is some of that's private. However, some of that I believe it's important for me to share. The part that's mine. And the part that is mine is I had a very thriving group therapy practice, and I was a partner of that practice. My partner and I multiple times, had business plans. We sat down and we had business meetings, which were great. And my partner would share goals in terms of the growth in the practice. I would share my goals, and we would compromise. We'd find a place where we could kind of meet. And so for years, I felt really good about the work that we were doing together. um, Things started to shift as part of my career in terms of consulting took off. And I was doing a lot of supervision inside the practice, but then I was also taking some time where I was traveling around the country and even had some opportunities to travel outside of the country to be able to train other therapists. And so I was loving it. I was loving life, loving our practice, loving everybody in it, loving the opportunities I was getting to be able to reach other therapists and be able to teach them the couples therapy model that I was using. Life honestly could not have gotten any better for me. And I would come home, and I was so looking forward to come home. And I would get there, get back involved in all my relationships, do all my things. Like I really enjoyed my team. And one of the things that was hard was there were some times in terms of my business meetings. And again, I'm trying to be careful here just to share my story. Whereas my business partner, we would come back and line up with like, hey, okay, like, where are we at with this goal? Where are we at with this goal? I would kind of share the things that I've been working on. My partner would share the things that was their responsibility. And what kept happening, meeting after meeting, was all of a sudden our goals started to look misaligned. And eventually we started having some conversations about, like, hey, we truly are at a place of having some different goals here. And so it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to compromise, maybe we need to change the goals, maybe we need to shift some things. So we shifted some things and changed our goals, changed timelines and things like that. And all that was great. And I'll never forget, I was at a training for psychedelics, using psychedelics in therapy in California. And I was in the middle of the Redwood Forest. It was absolutely beautiful. And very clear air, feeling very held just by the earth. And one of the things that I noticed was all of a sudden I had this huge hesitation up inside of my body. I was like, oh, what is that? And the place where we ended up having our training at in California, they have something there called a mother tree. And so essentially the mother tree is this redwood tree that is several hundred years old. And so I had the opportunity to go walk down, go by the mother tree where there's a beautiful creek. Um, and I'll never forget, I was sitting in the evening, just one evening, just kind of watching the moon rise and just sitting in that crisp, beautiful air out there in Northern California. And I was like, why do I not want to go home? And I was like, is it my husband? It's like, no, things feel good there. And I was like, well, maybe is it my kids? I'm a parent. And I was like, is it my kids? I was like, no, I'm so looking forward to seeing them. And then I'm like, is it my work? I'm like, no, I want to get back to work. And then I was like, is it my business partnership? And all of a sudden I felt this huge kind of like drop in my stomach. And I was like, oh, it's my business partnership. And so I took a lot of time and I journaled and I wrote and I rewrote and I cried. And I was like, I had to come to a place of acceptance that all of a sudden, the things that the moves that my business partner was making were different moves than what I thought that we had agreed to. And it was a very, very sad time for me. And even as I sit here now, 2 years removed from it, it still kind of feels like it's not real. Um, because I had a hard time accepting that we just were at a place where we had very different business goals. My business partner um, is a person who is, has been in environments where they felt that their voice was squashed, not heard in the past, and in other relationships. And so, one of the things that I felt like was most important was try to have another conversation with my business partner. And if for whatever reason we still weren't at a place where we could find some sort of compromise, just kind of be able to just name them. And so, even as I say that, like my heart just feels, I'm getting heartburn. Um, it was the hardest thing in the world for me to go home um, and to be able to have that conversation with my business partner about like, hey, where are we at on some of these goals that we established together? Where are we at with some of this stuff? And my business partner was just saying that this is what they were going to do, and so I was like, okay, that's fine, that's more than fine. And since I was not part of the original partnership with developing my group practice, I was added on. I felt that it was my responsibility to leave the practice versus asking the other person to leave the practice. So I just shared with my business partner at the time, like, hey, I, I we're not agreeing to the same things, and that's okay. That's okay. And I want to make sure that I respect your voice, and I want to make sure that I respect your decision making in this. And so, what I decided to do was I decided to step away. So I stepped away from everybody at the practice. And, I told folks, hey, my phone number has not changed. Feel free to contact me, feel free to call me. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Um, and I felt like I ended up breaking a lot of folks' hearts in terms of saying, hey, I'm leaving. And I know it broke mine. And in the midst of all of that was going on, the other thing that I was not aware that was going on was that my body was struggling. And so I thought it was just on an emotional sense, a spiritual sense, a business sense. I did not realize that my body was also in this process of just literally breaking down. I just thought I was just tired in terms of figuring out like how do I tiptoe around um, just not having the same values and views anymore, which I definitely empathize with so many couples that I've sat with who have been in very similar spots where you care about the person, you value everything that you've built together, and you just start realizing, okay, our goals are not aligning anymore, our values are not aligning anymore, and somebody has to say the thing. So, so it was a very humbling experience for me. And I went to each and every single therapist that was there at the group practice. And I just said, hey, look, I'm just kind of giving a heads up. We didn't have any sort of falling out. Me and my business partner didn't have some sort of falling out. It literally is just, we just have different goals. And since I'm the person who's acting on to this, in terms of a partner, I felt like it was important for me to step back. And so, again, in that process, I felt all kinds of things in my body, but I just kind of just chucked it up to, okay, this is just stress, or this is just your mental health stuff. And in 2 weeks' time, I started a brand new practice, and and was in the process of leaving something that I helped build for 8 years. So I started the new practice. Um, I did what a lot of us do. You know, you find strength, you find energy, you find motivation out of nowhere to get things done that you just need to be done. In the same sense, I was also trying to make sure to take care of my clients because this was a big abrupt change for them as well. I see a lot of people who are trauma survivors, and so I definitely did not want to uproot them so quickly if I did not have to, but I had to in this situation. So I went on ahead and in 2 weeks started a brand new practice, got set up, found a place, moved in, and then got settled. And once I finally got settled, then I think my body was kind of and I was able just to kind of fully crash. And again, I thought it was grieving. I thought it was, well, you know, you just pushed really hard for 2 weeks. You know, you weren't expecting to say goodbye. This happened very abruptly for you, and for everybody else who you care about at the practice. So maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this. And I kept going to provider after provider after provider. Hey, you know, something's going on with my body, and I'm not quite sure. And they were like, well, you know, maybe you're just dehydrated. Maybe you just need to eat more. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I started drinking um, 2 to 3 liters of water per day, and I was like, something's happening to me. And so I started taking my blood pressure in the evenings. And these moments of times where I'm just like, I have to go to sleep. And I noticed my blood pressure was going in the 80s over 50s. And so the only thing I could do at that point in time is just I take my blood pressure and go to sleep. And so this went on for months until I finally saw a provider, and I was like, hey, you know, I've seen a lot of providers, and they continuously are telling me that, okay, the issue is with your blood pressure is you're not drinking enough water, you're not taking enough salt, you're not eating enough, you're not having enough electrolytes. And so I literally just went through with this provider. I'm like, I drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I take electrolytes that include salt in them every single day. I have increased how much I eat, but this is still happening to me. So my provider listened. I'm so grateful that she listened. And she's like, okay, we'll run some tests. We'll find out what's going on. You seem healthy, you seem fine. So I'm like, okay. So, but I felt at least that I was listened to. I got a phone call on a Monday. And on that phone call on Monday, I was told by the nurse at my provider's office, hey, where are you at right now? I'm like, hey, well, I just came back from work. And so she's like, okay. She said, we need you to go to the hospital. I said, what? She said, we need you to go to the hospital. And she said, your hemoglobin is 6.1. We start transfusing folks usually at 7. We need you to go to the hospital just to recheck your blood work, just to make sure everything's okay. But if it ends up being the way that we see that it is, then what we'll probably have to do is we will probably have to go ahead on, and they'll probably have to keep you wherever you go, and you're probably going to get a blood transfusion. Long story short, 4 units of blood, an iron transfusion, and a 4.5 day stay in the hospital. I found out that essentially not everything was going okay on the inside. At the time, I just felt really grateful because I felt like, okay, I'm finally getting confirmation in terms of like, I knew something wasn't right. I knew I was feeling tired. I knew I was feeling run down, but I thought it was because I was just grieving. I thought it was just because I was sad. I thought it was because I felt like I was holding too much in terms of where I was at with my practice, and that I just needed to step away. I didn't realize it wasn't just on an emotional level. I didn't realize it was also on a physical level. So, long story short, I've been in this journey since then, um, going back, taking a look at some things in the past in terms of like, oh, well, that part of my health makes more sense now. Okay, that part of my health makes more sense now. Okay, that part of my health makes more sense now. Me eating like this makes more sense now because this is actually helpful to my body and without having the medical knowledge that I really needed at the time. Um, Now I'm at a place where I've been able to build a healthcare team around me who I believe, like all of my providers, I feel really good about them. I feel like they all listen to me. In this day and age where a lot of health providers are so overwhelmed, they're so honestly, they get disrespected a whole lot and overworked. I feel like I'm at a place where I finally have a team that is a medical team around me that is helping to hold me as I'm in this space of transition. So now I am in this place in my life, whereas I'm taking a look back at balance. I'm taking a look back at like, okay, who am I? Where am I? Where am I going with this? Reevaluating my values, reevaluating where I want to go and what I want to do in terms of my practice, in terms of my clients, in terms of how I show up in the community. And so this is a beginning. This is a process. I have no idea how all this stuff is going but I trust and I believe that good will come out of it. And so I share my story here today, a story that probably sounds very familiar to so many folks in terms of, starting to think like autoimmune disorders, like it's all in your head, it's just mental health. You're just making it up. You're just being sensitive. You just don't eat enough. You just don't drink enough. Um, But to start to finally have all of those things validated, it feels extremely good, extremely good. Um, in terms of being able to navigate the world and other professionals, I realized I just really just took time to just step back because I just needed that time to be able to focus in on my health. I needed to be able to focus in more appropriately on my clients. I need to be able to focus in more appropriately on my family. And um, and so I'm in this process of trying to figure it out. And my hope is that as I share my story, that this would hopefully validate somebody else's experience of maybe thinking it's all in your head and maybe even feeling like you're crazy at times. And I just want to let you know that I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. And I also get us understanding how chronic illness affects us, how it affects every other relationship that we have. So, my name is Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. I work with couples, and I want to walk with you in this journey. How long I do this, I'm not sure, but I'm glad to be. Thank you for holding space.